Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Brandon, your trusted realtor, and I want to say Happy New Year. We made it into a new year, but guess what? That just means there's so much more for you to do, so much more for you to, so many more heights and directions for you to go to, and that all begins with us having a plan. And today, as we begin to talk to you about a new you and a new me, what does that actually mean? Well, you can't spell home without me. And what I want to talk to you today is that there's no better time than the beginning of the year to begin to set forth a plan for you to become a homeowner in 2021 or in any year that is to come. We know that this is the start of a 12-month rat race, and each one of us individually, we are responsible for our own individual goals. And those goals are all about commitment. So unlike losing weight and having to go to the gym every day, home ownership is something that is going to continue to replicate itself in your life each and every day. It will create a path and a foundation for you and your family, and you can also work out in your home. So it eliminates the cost for you to even have that gym membership and make a resolution that you probably won't keep. What I want to talk to you right now specifically is that this is now the key time to put together 30 days. Reach out to me, whether that's call, text, email, or social media. Leave a comment down below so we can begin to put together your plan and evaluate what that plan looks like for you. Remember, no one ever really stumbled into getting a house. This isn't one of those reality TV shows where people sew mittens and they, pick grass for a living and they have a $600,000 budget. In fact, individuals have unique situations, and you all have unique situations, and because of that situation, you have to make sure that you have a plan and the right resources in place to make sure that you're able to walk that path and go down the right pathway of success for both you and your family. There's nothing like realizing that you want to buy a home and stalling 3 or 4 months before that when you could have been doing the work, and at the height of the process, you realize there's a home I like, there's a home I could have gotten, but you missed out on that. Many of you have already gone through that. If you started looking for a home sometime in the summer of 2020, you know what it's like to be on the losing end of the transaction, to want a house, to go to the open house, to go to the property repeated times, to see your items and your properties in that home, but to lose out. And this all is indicative of the fact that inventory is tight. Even though we've had a stellar year in the performance in the real estate market, we've had increases in sales, the overall inventory year over year still remains low. This is probably one of the longest drawn out periods of a seller's market that I can remember in a very long period of time, especially here in the Mid-Atlantic region, the DC, Maryland, Virginia region. So in order to prepare yourself for the inevitability, because if you've listened to some of my other videos, then you already know I'm advocating that we are in the data collection period. We're in the time frame or the period of time through this chaos that has been COVID-19, where house prices and demand, supply and demand is actually in play right now. So in the next quarter, we'll begin to see what home values and prices look like. I can tell you now, at the moment, for the month of January, I have about 6 active buyers that I'm working with. And I'm open to expanding that, so call me because I do have a few more slots. The reality is that working with buyers, individuals that are buying a home, it does take more energy than individuals that are selling. It is a more one-on-one intimate experience, and it's really about guiding you and negotiating that through the process. So I am taking on folks now, but I say all that to say is that individuals now, at least a third of them, are looking to live in DC, and unfortunately, because we are below a $500,000 threshold, it is essentially pushing them to the outskirts. So we're looking at Seat Pleasant, Capitol Heights, Hyattsville, etc., Mount Rainier, in order to begin to negotiate properties in those price ranges. So the one thing I can tell you is that supply and demand here in the Mid-Atlantic region is real. At some point, there's going to become an absence in the amount of developable of land that is able to be developed at a discount in DC. And like I've said before, everything will be $500,000. So what do you need to do conceptually to prepare yourself for that reality? The first is credit. Credit is king, and it's so important to come to that realization and conceptualization that you have to begin to make those sacrifices and the needed sacrifices in order to know what your credit profile looks like. You can use tools like Credit Karma. I myself am a big advocate. They don't sponsor this page, but it's an amazing resource for you to use. I recommend you get the paid version because not only will it provide you with statistics and analytics on how you can use it, but it gives you insights and information about how you're using and how you're performing. And more importantly, it makes you accountable for looking and tracking whether or not you're making payments on time and timely. Your goal is to make sure you're looking at those specific metrics like timely payments or payment timeliness, utilization rate, which is how much credit are you currently utilizing. Those things are going to be important, and it gives you a sense of how other individuals are going to evaluate you. Now, you'll say, well, why is this important? Or I understand how credit works, or I have all this other stuff and I want to dispute it and I don't feel like it's worth it. Baby, the juice is not worth the squeeze. At the end of the day, you can spend all this time disputing and complaining and trying to discern whether or not you were in the right about a situation. You are much better off paying that debt off to increase your credit so you can move forward. You are essentially willingly holding yourself captive because you can't force an individual or credit institution or entity to remove anything from your credit report. You can make complaints and filings, but you need to come to a resolution, and that's going to be dollars and cents. If you spent the money and it's far beyond what you're looking to pay right now, you need to talk to that particular provider about putting yourself on a plan. And if you reach out to me in the comments, for all the individuals that reach out in the comments, I will connect with you directly, and I'll provide you with this financial worksheet that allows you to calculate your indebtedness and the time frame that it's going to take to pay that off. I'll provide that to you. For everyone that reaches out, the only thing you have to provide me is your email address, a valid email address. Now, why is that also important? Credit. It's the same subject. We're going to stick on that. Is that that's what lenders are looking at. That's how they evaluate whether or not they're going to give you money. Imagine meeting someone and giving them the keys to your car or giving them your child and walking away without understanding who they are or any background. That's what credit does. Credit says, hey, it allows you to look at all of your historical transactions and how you've engaged and how you've used credit. And a lot of you say, well, I don't have credit. I don't have credit cards. You're going to have to get over that hump as well. Because if you don't have credit, that means that no one can evaluate your credit history. It's like dating someone who's never dated before. If they've never dated before, then they don't know how to treat you. They don't know what it's like to pursue you. They don't know what it's like to ask you out on a date. So you have to have some level of history in order for some individual or entity to be able to evaluate you. In order for me to give you information about how much your home is going to be worth or how much you could afford, I have to know how much you make, and you have to have been at that job for a period of time. So you have to get past the mentality or the thought process that I don't want credit. It doesn't matter what you want. The only thing that matters is if your want is greater than your desire. And if you want a house, which is greater than the want of not getting a credit card, you have to negotiate that psychological hurdle. That's not something I can help you with, but you got to realize that you got to get past that. The other piece of why this is important is that the better your credit score is, the better off you're going to be or better situated you're going to be for savings. That savings is going to be both the short term and the long term. Well, what does that mean? The lower your credit score is, or the higher your credit score is, that means that the better interest rate you'll get up front. That means that each month you will be paying less for the amount of money that you are borrowing. If you also pay on the amortization or break the amortization schedule, and that means paying more on the principal each month, that means you're going to pay that home off a whole lot faster, years, maybe even decades faster, depending on how much you're paying because you have a lower interest rate and you'll have that free available income. Also, in the long term, you'll pay that property down even faster, meaning that you won't owe that much money to the mortgage company. And then if you want to begin to leverage that asset or refinance it in order to leverage that capital, you'll be able to do that. You remember, the name of the game is setting yourself up for success. And in the beginning of this year, that's what we want to do. Focus on setting you up to be successful, both in the short term and the long term. Also, piggyback on that, we are uncertain about what's going to happen in this COVID-19 environment with legislation and what will be passed and won't be passed and what protections exist. So you can bet your bottom dollar that lenders are looking at this. They have this little black box of how they evaluate you. And that little black box is probably going to include some additional overlays or protections, because they're going to learn lessons from 2007 where the mortgage market crashed and they lost tens of billions of dollars. They are not looking to repeat that same situation, nor are they looking to hold assets for long periods of time, i.e. homes that have gone into foreclosure, which means that they're going to be looking to make sure that you as an individual can actually qualify for that home and that property. Another thing to remember is that the reason that credit and doing this evaluation upfront is important is because the type of debt that you have in your credit is going to be evaluated differently. And what am I talking about? Specifically, I'm talking about student loans. Student loans will be calculated differently based on the type of loan, based on the loan type that you use. So if you use FHA as a vehicle, they're going to count at least 1% of the payment that you have. So if your monthly payment is $2,000, but you've negotiated that payment down to be $350, they're going to count that $2,000 payment, and that's going to murder your DTI, your debt to income. That means that you're going to have the credit, at least a 700 credit score, in order to qualify for a conventional loan. So it really is important that we begin the planning process now and not wait to the last minute, because you can spend 6 to 8 months working on one situation and you may even have other situations that are in the background. Now, the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is doing the work. Now, one thing to remember is that you have to recognize that you are in control. No one else is going to be able to do this work for you, or as it relates to your credit and paying down this indebtedness. We can put you on tools and plans and strategies, but you have to be the one to put the money to the side in order to make sure those things are up to par and to running. And also making sure that you avail yourself of knowledge and information of strategies such as increasing your available credit and not reducing your credit limit that's available by closing credit cards. That will have an adverse impact on you as well, because you have less available credit to use, and that means that your credit utilization score will typically go up. Again, the next thing I want to talk to you all about is savings. Yeah, it's important, but let's talk about how important it is in context. When it comes to savings, if you are looking to purchase a home in the DC region, let's say at $400,000, that's going to be at 3% down payment. That is going to be $12,000. That's going to take you at $200 a month put to the side, 60 months in order to come up with that $12,000. That's a long time, typically for most individuals, especially if they're looking to move in a house in the next 12 months. There are a couple strategies or things to think about. One, if you've been investing in your IRA or 401k, you may be able to provide a personal loan to yourself in order to get the money that you need. Second, there's down payment and closing cost assistance. So many people say that, hey, I'm going to hold off on my real estate search or my real estate transaction because I want to save a little bit more money. But au contraire, in fact, what you can actually have done is talk to a lender, and the lender will do an evaluation based on the different down payment and closing cost assistance programs and your current situation, your income, your debts, and they'll provide you a statement that says that, hey, here's what your estimated closing costs are going to be. And that's typically when a lender runs your credit for pre-approval. Guess how many points you lose? 1. It was a trick question. It wasn't even plural. It's 1. You literally get a 1 point hit to your credit score when you ask for a pre-approval from a lender. It is not significant at all. In fact, I recommend, it is common knowledge that amongst the real estate industry and professionals recommend that you get at least 3 pre-approvals. So if you were going to get hit 5 and 10 points for every pre-approval, we wouldn't recommend that to happen to you, because that 10 or 15 points can make the difference between you having a 600, a high 600 credit score, and a 700 credit score. So that is the reality. So working with a lender means they will give you the information and tools. And why is that important? Because now you know how they're going to evaluate you. Imagine if you were dating somebody, imagine if you were so enamored with someone and you could actually go to that person and say, hey, what would I have to do in order for me to be your type? That's essentially what you're doing when you go to a lender and ask for a pre-approval, and they give you the information. And if the number is not the number that you like, or it's not sexy enough or not high enough for you to live in DC or wherever you want to live, then you know what you have to work on. And the lender, if you have the right lender, if not, contact me, because of my affiliations with my brokerage company, whether you're in DC, Maryland, Virginia, Florida, parts of Miami, Atlanta, Colorado, Minneapolis, Minnesota, wherever you are in the world, California, Dubai, London, France, I have real estate connections and professionals I can connect you with, so that way you can begin that discussion and have those conversations to set you up for what? Success and excellence. The next piece of this is also realizing that if you live here in DC, Maryland, in DC has multiple programs that are going to assist you with down payment and closing cost assistance. 2 of those programs are going to be HPAP and DC Open Doors. And in fact, if you qualify for the HPAP program, which is a housing payment assistance program, and it is for individuals that have lower income and lower credit scores, they start with minimum qualifications of 580 in order to qualify for the program. And they look for at least a minimum. Individuals have been able to use this program and get into a house by paying as little as $500 in order to close, as long as they meet the income and the credit criteria, which is under $100,000 as far as income that they're making. Contact me if you want to know more about their program. It's an amazing tool, but they give upwards to almost $80,000 to individuals, just depending on your scenario, for down payment and closing cost assistance. An amazing vehicle for you to get into a property and create ownership and wealth for yourself. That's significantly more money than DC Open Doors as a program. Just a fun fact, if you live in this region. So when it comes to savings, having some money in the bank is important, but guess what? If you don't have money in the bank right now and you're a renter and prices are going up, in my school, there's a quote by Dr. Mays, Dr. Benjamin E. Mays. He who starts behind in this great race of life will forever remain behind or run faster than the man in front. If you are not making more money, putting more money aside in order to catch up with the fact that you don't have, it's going to take you 60 months in order to save $12,000 at $200 a month, you might want to listen to the wisdom laid before you that there is an opportunity. You have to stand and get out of your own way in order for you to be successful. Now, the next piece of this that I want to talk to you about is tracking your income and expenses. But again, I talked to you about an Excel program or sheet that is created that's going to help you with that development. We'll talk more about that in the next episode. If you haven't done so already, do me the honor of liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification button so you stay tuned in and in tune to the latest and greatest here in DC and everywhere else. Maryland, Virginia, you know I love you. Take care, and if you have any questions, remember I am your trusted realtor, and I'm here for all of your real estate needs. Talk to you soon.